Welcome back to the showroom.
We have a great show today.
Let's get right into it.
A rocket gets fired in the Red Sea, right? And thousands of miles away, a major semiconductor factory just completely halts production.
Yeah. It sounds crazy, but it happened.
It really does. And why? Because modern global supply chains are just wound so tightly that, a single geopolitical spark on one side of the planet can literally cost multinational corporations millions of dollars in
Yeah.
like a matter of hours.
Right. The days of having weeks or even days to react to global news, those are totally over.
Completely over. Welcome to the deep dive. I'm so glad you're joining us today. Now, if you were with us for our last exploration into the Sampo AIO ecosystem.
Which was a fascinating one, by the way.
Oh, absolutely. You remember we unpacked their AI Ethics OS and the DAO Ethics Engine. We looked at how leaders are using these mathematical thresholds. Specifically, they were hard-coding a Gini coefficient of 0.40, right, to help them navigate complex EU regulations fairly.
Yeah, essentially taking something super subjective, like organizational fairness, and turning it into an objective, enforceable metric.
Exactly. But organizations don't just operate in a vacuum.
Right.
They don't just manage internal compliance. They have to survive external chaos. And that is our pivot for today's deep dive.
Because regulations are definitely not the only unpredictable variables global leaders have to face.
Not at all. If you are managing an organization that relies on a global footprint, moving energy, food, technology across borders, well, Sarah, quote, geopolitical storms and supply chain vulnerabilities are just your daily reality.
And this is where the requirements for business completely diverge from the requirements of, say, a news network.
Right.
Organizations, they don't need political commentary about these global events. They don't need talking heads debating who's right or wrong.
Yeah, they don't have time for that.
Exactly. They need an objective radar to maintain business continuity. Like, if a shipping lane is compromised, a business just needs to know immediately, how does this physical event impact our specific supply route?
And what's the mathematical cost of that disruption? So our mission for you today is to explore exactly how a business acquires that radar. We went back into the Sampo AIO GitHub showroom.
And we found something incredible.
We really did. It's a very specific, super powerful repository called the DAO Geopolitical Risk Scrambler. We're going to unpack how this tool serves as an objective, completely bias-free BDB compass for supply chain resilience.
Yeah, and to really understand how this works, you have to visualize where it actually sits within the broader Sampo AIO ecosystem. So the architecture centers around a main orchestration hub, which they call the DAO hub.
Okay.
And orbiting that central hub are these various specialized intelligence nodes. The Geopolitical Risk Scrambler is one of these nodes. It's a Wave 3 satellite, to use their specific terminology.
Got it.
And it runs on port 8010. It's just quietly processing massive amounts of global data and feeding critical operational intelligence right back to the center.
Okay, let me stop you right there, because when we say, it processes data on port 8010, that sounds like a line from a technical manual.
Fair enough. It is a bit dry.
Right. For the leaders listening who actually have to use this intelligence to make decisions, what does this tool actually look like? Because, let's be honest, data is just noise until you can visualize it.
No, it's a great point. So the developers built the interface using a library called React Simple Maps. And the result is this dashboard that is designed for immediate executive-level comprehension.
So it's not just rows and columns.
Not at all. When
Yeah.
you log in, you aren't looking at spreadsheets. You are looking at a fully interactive world map.
Yeah.
But it's not static. It's a living intelligence layer. Right away, you see 27 country risk classifications. And they're beautifully color-coded, ranging from green for low-risk environments all the way up to red for severe instability.
And overlaid on top of that gradient map, there's a really specific set of markers, right?
Yes, exactly. There are 7 active geopolitical event markers. They're drawn as these distinct circles that show you precisely where the global pressure points are. And then, connecting the map, crossing oceans and continents, are 7 actively disrupted supply chain routes. They're drawn as lines. So it basically takes millions of disparate data points and collapses them into a single, instantly readable operational picture.
Okay, let's unpack this. We were talking about geopolitical risk, which is, by its very nature, messy.
Very messy.
Right. How does a software dashboard maintain absolute neutrality? I mean, if it's scraping global events, how does it filter out the political noise and deliver something a business can actually trust?
It does it by completely ignoring the narrative. It focuses entirely on the physical and infrastructural reality.
Interesting.
Yeah, the node processes raw data across 5 core capabilities. You've got event tracking, country risk scoring, seeded news intelligence, route analysis, and scenario simulation.
Okay.
It doesn't analyze the rhetoric of a speech from a politician. It analyzes the physical flow of goods.
Give me a concrete example from the sources we reviewed. Like, how does it handle something as massive as the Russia-Ukraine war?
So the system logs the ongoing Russia-Ukraine conflict, right? But it doesn't output a political summary. It outputs strict infrastructural metrics.
Okay, like gut.
Well, it notes, for example, that European gas supply is operating at 35% of its historical capacity.
Wow. Just the hard numbers.
Just the numbers. It objectively logs the physical sabotage of the Nord Stream pipeline. It tracks the precisely measured reduction of flow through the Turk Stream pipeline.
So it's literally just looking at the plumbing of the global economy.
Exactly, the plumbing.
Yeah.
And because it understands that plumbing, it can map the cascading effects. For instance, the dashboard shows that Finland, since they were disconnected from the Russian grid, is now heavily reliant on Norwegian pipelines and the Inku LNG terminal. And this is the crucial part for a business, it tags the specific market sectors that take a direct hit from that localized energy disruption. Sectors like energy, agriculture, metals, chemicals.
Wait, let's unpack that cascading effect, because I think that's where the real value is. It's easy to see how an energy disruption hits the energy sector. That's obvious.
Right. But agriculture, metals.
This is where the system's depth really shines. It understands that you cannot produce commercial fertilizer without massive amounts of natural gas.
Oh, wow. Of course.
Right. So a pipeline disruption in Eastern Europe translates directly into an agricultural yield warning for the next planting season.
That makes total sense.
Same with metals. Smelting metals requires immense cheap electricity. If European gas capacity drops to 35%, the profit margins for aluminum smelters just vanish, and those plants have to idle. The AI maps that entire chain of causality.
That's wild. And it does the exact same thing with the data we saw regarding the tensions in the Taiwan Strait.
Yes.
The dashboard evaluates the severity of that specific event at a 7 out of 10. And it doesn't just arrive at that number by guessing or, reading Twitter.
And not at all.
It's looking at heightened security protocols being activated at TSMC and other major chip fabrication plants. When those physical protocols go into effect, the system immediately triggers a massive semiconductor supply chain alert. Because the AI knows that if a major chip fab even slightly slows its output due to security measures...
The global electronics and automotive sectors face immediate downstream bottlenecks.
Exactly.
I want to give you an analogy for how this feels to the listener, because it reminds me of how we navigate our daily commutes.
Oh, I like this.
Okay, let's unpack this. It's like Waze or any advanced GPS app. You open the app, and you don't just look at the map. You see a red line ahead because of a traffic jam.
Right.
The app doesn't tell you whose fault the car accident was or what kind of cars were involved or what the drivers were arguing about. It just says, red line ahead, 15-minute delay, take this alternate route.
It's a really solid comparison.
But the Risk Scrambler takes it a massive step further, because a standard GPS tells you about a crash that already happened. This system is acting like a digital meteorologist combined with a GPS. It's looking at the weather patterns of global trade, seeing a storm forming, and telling a multinational corporation to reroute before the physical crash ever occurs.
And bridging that gap between the abstract geopolitical storm and the actual physical rerouting that is where the system's route analysis capability comes in.
Right, because an event far away doesn't matter until it hits your route.
Exactly. A conflict happening thousands of miles away is just an abstraction until it hits a vital shipping artery.
Which arteries are we talking about here?
Well, the dashboard specifically tracks disruptions on critical pathways. We're talking about things like the Qatar LNG route to Rotterdam, Saudi oil shipments to Italy, or cargo moving from Singapore to Helsinki.
Okay.
Let's look at the Red Sea shipping corridor disruption. When you click on that disrupted route on the map, the tool doesn't just display a generic little warning icon.
Right.
It quantifies the disruption in exact financial and temporal terms.
Because just saying something is disrupted isn't a metric a supply chain manager can actually put into a spreadsheet.
Precisely. The system logs that ongoing security threats have forced commercial vessels to reroute. Then it outputs the hard data. It calculates that container freight rates on these lanes have surged by a staggering 180%.
180%, that's insane.
It is. And it identifies precise spot shortages hitting key trade lanes as a direct result.
And it calculates the exact time penalty for the detour. Right?
Yes. It calculates that bypassing the Red Sea entirely and taking the alternative route around the Cape of Good Hope adds exactly 10 to 14 days to Europe-Asia shipping routes.
And if you are running a just-in-time manufacturing supply chain where, warehousing is kept to an absolute minimum to save costs, a 14-day delay is catastrophic.
Oh, absolutely.
Your assembly line isn't just delayed, it stops entirely because the components meant to arrive on day 2 are now arriving on day 16.
And that downtime costs millions per day. This is why having an objective quantification of the delay allows a company to immediately calculate. Is it cheaper to pay the 180% freight premium to secure a different route, or to just idle the factory floor for 2 weeks?
It transforms panic into a math problem.
Perfectly said.
Okay, we've talked about how it measures what is happening right now, but here's where it gets really interesting. We found a feature in the repository called the Scenario Simulation Endpoint.
Yes, the Simulation Endpoint.
For the technical folks listening, it's a POST request to a PIV1 risk analyze. Think of an API endpoint like a digital doorway, where one computer can knock and ask another computer a question.
And the question being asked here is essentially, what if?
Exactly. If I am a supply chain manager, how does this let me play out a hypothetical scenario before a crisis actually happens? I like to think of this as a digital wind tunnel for supply chains.
I love that analogy.
Right. In aerospace engineering, before you ever build a physical airplane, you put a digital model into a simulated wind tunnel. You blast it with additional hurricane, and you watch exactly where the wings snap off.
Yep.
That is what this endpoint does for global trade. You input a hypothetical crisis, and the AI simulates the shock waves before anything happens.
It is arguably the most powerful feature of the entire node. It relies on really deep historical data matching and macroeconomic dependency mapping.
So how does that look in practice?
Let's walk through an example from the source material. A user inputs a hypothetical escalation of conflict in the Middle East. The system processes that scenario and outputs a highly specific forecast. It actually predicts a localized volatility spike of -12% on the KOSPI index.
Okay, let me pause you. The KOSPI index is the stock market index of South Korea.
Right.
If I simulate a conflict in the Middle East, why on earth is the AI predicting a 12% drop in South Korea? How does it make that leap?
It makes the leap because it understands the fundamental structure of global economies. South Korea has a really export-heavy economy.
Okay.
They manufacture electronics, automobiles, heavy machinery. But they're deeply dependent on imported energy to power those factories. So a shock to Middle Eastern oil supply instantly causes a massive surge in South Korea's energy costs. That energy spike crushes the profit margins of their manufacturing exports. The AI instantly connects those macroeconomic dots and predicts the capital flight from the South Korean index.
That is just remarkable. It's mapping the invisible strings that hold the global economy together.
It really is. Let's look at another simulation outcome from that exact same Middle East scenario. The system models a 7.8% drop in the S&P 500 tech sector.
Again, why the tech sector? You would think energy companies would be the primary variable there.
There are two main drivers the AI identifies here. First, institutional investors immediately reprice what's called the geopolitical risk premium.
Meaning what, exactly?
Meaning they pull capital out of growth-heavy sectors like tech and move it into safe havens.
Okay, that makes sense.
Second, and more practically, the AI knows that data centers, which are the absolute backbone of the modern tech sector, especially with the rise of AI, consume astronomical amounts of electricity.
Oh, of course.
If a Middle East oil crisis drives up global energy costs, the operational overhead for every major tech company running massive server farms just skyrockets. The AI calculates that exposure and projects the 7.8% drop.
So if you're a supply chain manager or a CFO, you run that digital wind tunnel simulation on, a random Tuesday afternoon. You realize that your company has this massive hidden exposure to a specific shipping lane or a specific foreign energy grid. You don't wait for a news alert on your phone. You immediately start diversifying your suppliers. You secure alternative freight contracts. You hedge your energy costs in the futures market.
It fundamentally shifts a business from a posture of reaction to a posture of preparation.
Yeah.
You are no longer managing a crisis. You're executing a contingency plan.
It's an incredible thought. To summarize what we've unpacked for you today, we started by looking at how DAO Geopolitical Risk Scrambler functions as an objective, proactive radar for global supply chains. We saw how it strips away the noise of global politics. to deliver hard, actionable metrics like a 180% freight rate increase or a 14-day shipping delay, allowing multinational corporations to map the exact mathematical cost of global instability.
Right.
We stepped inside the digital wind tunnel of the what-if simulation engine, exploring how leaders can pre-experience market shocks by mapping complex macroeconomic dependencies.
Yeah.
And finally, we uncovered a masterclass in tech business strategy, seeing how a creator balances public transparency with brilliant intellectual property protection through a curated B2B showroom.
It is an elegant, highly structured solution to an incredibly messy, unpredictable world. But if I can leave you with a final thought to ponder, one that builds on the fundamental logic of everything we've discussed today.
Please do.
Think about the trajectory of this technology. If these individual nodes, like the Risk Scrambler identifying a threat and the DAO hub evaluating the ethics, are already operating within the same interconnected ecosystem, how long until human decision makers are removed entirely?
Wow. That's the logical endpoint, isn't it?
It is. Imagine a near future where the AI detects a geopolitical event in the Taiwan Strait, instantly simulates the resulting supply chain failure and the energy cost spike, and then autonomously executes the trades to reroute physical cargo ships and buy alternative energy futures.
All on its own.
All on its own.
Yeah.
In a matter of milliseconds, before the morning news even breaks.
It is equal parts terrifying and utterly inevitable. It makes you realize that the future of institutional decision-making isn't just going to be data-driven. It's going to be entirely autonomous. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. I hope you'll come back as we continue to explore the hidden depths of the Sampo AIO ecosystem. And remember, the next time you open your GPS app to avoid a traffic jam, just imagine what that exact same logic looks like when it is steering the global economy. See you next time.